Welcome to For the Love of Books, Bees Books Edition, a podcast by North Lanarkshire Libraries.
Hi, this is Pari.
And this is Jennie. And welcome to Bees Books.
Welcome. So this time around, the theme was a little difficult, I think. I've eventually narrowed it down, but the theme that Bee gave us was golden years. And how did you find the theme, Jennie? Were you okay with it?
Well, I've chosen a genre rather than an actual book this time.
Oh.
But I'm interested because I can kind of see your books. Let me see your book first. I'm too nosy.
Okay. So my book's called Once Upon a Tome by Oliver Darkshire, and the subtitle is The Misadventures of a Rare Bookseller. I'm going to tell you why I chose this as golden years.
I'm puzzled.
Yes, this is my aim, to puzzle you and to puzzle Bee and to puzzle anybody who's listening to us. Why? How is this golden years? Why does this make sense? It does in my head.
Okay.
But yes, before that, can I ask you about your series?
Yes. So mine says the genre is Golden Age crime. So I've kind of squished it in slightly.
Yeah.
So Golden Age crime, for those that don't know, is the sort of 20s and 30s between the two world wars. So it's things like Agatha Christie, authors like that. And I have them here.
Oh, wow.
So the first one I have is And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. But the other books I've got are all part of the same series, and I'm going to show you the covers
Oh,
because
they're beautiful.
lovely.
Oh, very nice, yeah.
So this is a modern writer, but writing for those years.
All right.
And they're very good. So this is Martin Edwards, and I will talk a wee bit about that. But I'm still interested. How does this fit in?
So, golden years is like, sort of I guess people who are older, I don't want to say old, older, and they have more time in their life, and they have more freedom to do whatever they want. And I focused very much on the older bit, because this bookshop is a real bookshop. It's called Sotheran's, and I think that's how you say it, and it's in London, and it was founded in 1761. So it is a bookshop in its golden years, I think even beyond platinum years. It's it's all rare and antiquarian books as well. So the books are also like, I guess, past the prime of life, which, not to offend any golden year listeners, but yeah, so it's just, although the person who's writing this book isn't. So it's a interesting juxtaposition, I guess. But I read this book a few weeks ago, or a couple of months maybe, and I really loved it because it made me think about a lot of parallels between working in a public library and working in a rare bookseller bookshop. So it's basically sort of like a diary memoir kind of thing. And in fact, I'll read the description because I think it encapsulates it perfectly. Sometimes how book descriptions they tell you a lie. They don't.
Yes, Tamsin Muir comes to mind.
Yep. This is absolutely the opposite. And this is also a debut book, so I guess it depends. So yeah. Some years ago, Oliver Darkshire stepped into the hushed interior of Henry Sotheran Limited on Sackville Street, established 1761, to interview for their bookselling apprenticeship, a decision which has bedeviled him ever since. He'd intended to stay for a year before launching into some less dusty, better remunerated career. Unfortunately for him, the alluring smell of old books and the temptation of a management-approved afternoon nap proved irresistible. Soon he was balancing teetering stacks of first editions, fending off nonagenarian widows with a 10-foot pole, and trying not to upset the store's resident ghost. The late Mr. Sotheran had unfinished business when he was hit by that tram. For while Sotheran's might be a treasure trove of literary delights, it sings a siren song to eccentrics. There are not only colleagues whose tastes in rare items range from the inspired to the mildly dangerous, but also zealous collectors seeking knowledge, curios, or simply someone with whom to hold a 4-hour conversation about books bound in human skin. By turns unhinged and earnestly dog-eared, Once Upon a Tome is the rather colourful story of life in one of the world's oldest bookshops and a love letter to the benign, unruly world of antiquarian bookselling, where to be uncommon or strange is the best possible compliment. Which it sells it completely lives up to this description. And it's I think his love of books and strangeness and strange people and strange encounters really shines through. Like he writes, there's a sort of section where he writes about the different kinds, like species of customers that he interacts with, because they are like he said, eccentrics. It does seem quite an eccentric sort of space, which then made me think of, like, if you know how I keep saying a sitcom set in a public library would be brilliant. And I think there is one set in a used bookshop called Black Books. So like there is a sitcom, but nothing set in a public library yet. So whenever he was talking about, you know, these strange encounters and with books and people, like it kept making me think about working here. And it was just like his style is so like, it's sort of a blend of non-fiction but also like imaginative things. So he has a Twitter account as well, which is how I first encountered the shop. It's called Sotheran's, and there is also like, it's a similar kind of voice because he runs the Twitter account, and it's just a blend of fact but also like leaps of imagination, where he'll be like, oh, there are these strange creatures that, you know, they're making sounds behind the shelf. Should I go and should I fight them, or should I just hide in this corner? And like politics of the air conditioning the correct air conditioning temperature among colleagues.
That does sound very familiar.
Yeah. So it just made me feel really both, like it was both unfamiliar and familiar, like a mix. And just I loved reading about book people and, you know, people who build their lives around books, because like both of us are such book people.
Absolutely.
But of a different flavor than this, because like rare books, antiquarian books, like the one he said about Danger was one, I think, that had like, there were books that had poison in their pages. I don't know if it was on purpose or it was because of the time when because they're old books. So like, yeah, it was the materials that were used then that now would like kill you, or would kill you then too, but now you know about it. So yeah, it's just a fantastic book, and it does fit in golden years. I have declared.
Yes. Well, A, I want a road trip to go and visit it. And B, everybody knows I don't like non-fiction books. I would give this a go. You've really sold it, that you could read it. You know, is it a dipping in book?
It is. So I'll just show you. Sorry for the people who don't have the visual. You'll just have to come to the library and check it out. But they're pretty short subsections of chapters. Oh, here there's a picture of a god that looks like Queen Victoria, which has been in the shop for ages. They've been trying to sell it. So they collect, apart from books, they collect weird things as well. And it just becomes a part of the decor. Sometimes they sell it, but mostly it just becomes home. So yeah, so see, it's not like super long, so it's just a few pages, and they're not, you don't need to read all of them together. It's not a narrative. It's just dipping in and out is perfect.
It does have a very lovely inside cover as well.
Yeah.
Lots of
all
posters.
these different, because they sell prints as well. So the shop must be beautiful. Like he describes the shop too. And just like the old-timey kind of thing, which has a certain romance to it. So road trip for sure.
Absolutely.
Like, for research purposes.
Yes. I bet it has that smell as well, that proper.
And isn't the cover gorgeous as well? So like some of the things on the cover, there are objects that he talks about in the book. So they are like, someone's commissioned this piece, and this is him presumably. So yeah, you're the god that looks like Queen Victoria. There's a sinister owl, some like headpieces, and like it's just a really nice way to spend time in another world, but a familiar one, but also like he's a really good guide into that world too, because he has a very dry sort of sense of humor, and he's both like, he's kind of an anthropologist, that this is not really my kind of world, but now I guess it is, so I'm a part of it. So it starts from his journey into like when he's new, and now he's been there for a few years and things. So it's really lovely.
I think B's going to let you off anyway, because the writing on it is gold.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
She knows that we've got weird and wonderful ways of fitting things in. So even if it wasn't, we would get away with it there.
Yeah.
Oh no, I did definitely read that.
Oh,
definitely.
excellent. So what about your books now?
So as I say, I've chosen Golden Age Crime, which is set between the two world wars. And the first one I chose was And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. You may have seen a recent adaptation on the television, but I would always say read the book, it's better. And basically this book is a kind of locked door mystery murder thing. So 10 people are invited to an island. They all think they're going for a slightly different reason, and basically they're all killed off, all of them. So you have to try and work out how that's done. And it's very clever. It's very clever.
All of them?
Yep. So when they get there, they get taken over to this island on a boat, and there's like a housekeeper and a butler, and then there's 8 guests, and they go into the living room, the dining room, and on the table are 10 small soldiers. The island is called Soldier Island, and as the people are killed off, the wee statues disappear. So they kind of notice this, and there's kind of lots of other things happening in the background that you kind of go, oh, why is that happening? But it all comes from a poem that's up on everybody's bedroom wall called 10 Little Soldiers, and basically, I shall very quickly find it. It is an old kind of poem, and it says, 10 little soldier boys went out to dine, one choked his little self, and then there were 9. 9 little soldier boys sat up late, one overslept himself, and then there were 8. And it kind of goes right down to one little soldier boy left all alone, he went and hanged himself, and then there were none. So each person dies
in the same way.
The thing.
And serial killer, maybe.
Yes, but they all die, and there's nobody else on the island because it's quite a small island, and they go and they hunt around. The house on the island has been recently built, so it's a very modern for the 20s, 30s. So there's no hiding places, there's no priest's hole or anything that anybody could hide. So it's trying to work out, and they try and work out when they realise, you know, that somebody's bumping them off, but it must be one of them, and it gets very suspicious. So everybody kind of like, oh, I think the doctor's done it because they used poison. Oh, I think this person's done it, and you don't actually know why the people are there either, but you kind of learn that as you're going along. So it turns out that each person has murdered somebody but gotten away with it, but not intentionally. So for example, one of them found out his wife was having an affair with one of his people in the army, and he kind of put him on the front line, so basically he was killed. So he's not done it directly, but indirectly it's kind of...
So somebody's passing judgment that they didn't actually get.
Yes.
So while you were talking, I was very rudely Googling.
You were,
yes, it wasn't, because your thing actually reminded me of the kinds of things I really enjoy watching, like especially recently. So I don't know if you know the Knives Out movie franchise. Like, so when you were talking about the island, I was trying to, like, I remember the glass onion bit, but I couldn't remember Knives Out. And then the other thing about all the people trying to figure out. So I'm currently watching something on Apple called The After Party, and that's a really fun for a murder mystery thing, like a show. So it's in its 2nd season now, and it's a similar kind of concept, which is like one person dies, and then they're all like together in a same space, and the detective is trying to figure out. So in each episode is interviewing different suspects. But the sort of twist in The After Party is like, so there was a party where someone dies. So the after party is that when each person is describing their, what they did, their alibi, I guess, or why they were there, it's in a different genre, depending on what kind of story it is. So sometimes it's a rom-com, sometimes it's a noir, sometimes it's a mystery, sometimes it's like a musical.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, so it's just a great grand old time. And like, but throughout the different alibis, you're getting different bits of clues, some red herrings, some, so you can like, I guess, put it together if you're cleverer than me. I'm not that clever. So, which makes me then ask, in this, is there enough for the reader to put things together, or does it come as a complete plot twist?
I think that as you're going along, if you're familiar with that kind of style of writing, there are kind of wee clues here and there. One of the soldier boys, I'll find the wee bit again, dies from a red herring. And you kind of go, oh, that must be, so where are you? 4 little soldier boys going out to sea, a red herring swallowed one, and then there were 3. So when that comes up, and suddenly there's only 3 of them left, you kind of go, oh, right, okay, red herring, you know,
Yeah,
does
yeah,
that has a
yeah.
double meaning? Where does that fit in? But there's lots of wee clues throughout it if you're clever enough. You don't need to. I like to read a book and just read it.
I love plot twists. I like them both actually. Like sometimes I like putting the clues together, and I think a really good writer or sort of a narrative, you know, helps you do that. Like, but also sort of surprises you too. Like I like those books the best where I feel like, oh, I know who it is. Oh wait,
No.
But even like sometimes when I do know who it is, it's nice to like sort of, oh, I did follow the clues. But when it's a surprise, I love it best when it's a surprise. I'm like, oh, now it all makes sense.
But this is like that because you kind of go, oh, I know who it is. No, I definitely know who it is.
Yeah.
And then they die and you think, oh, right, okay, that didn't work out. Who else can it be? And like the characters in it, you kind of go, well, wait a minute, he was in the army, so he must have a revolver. So I know somebody was shot, so it must be him. And then you go, oh wait, he's now dead. So who else might have a revolver? You know, it's all that kind of stuff. And as it's going through it, you kind of learn the stories about who they killed. Now, some of it was an accident, but they didn't pay the price.
Right. So who is this judging them?
Exactly.
Not in a court of their peers.
No. And obviously the person's done their homework. They've like
really so they've invited them very strategically and like planned the whole.
Yes, it's very clever. And it's not for Agatha Christie. We think of Miss Marple, we think of Poirot. It's not one of those. It's kind of a standalone book. She does have quite a few of those, and it's very good.
I'd actually love, like, I know usually I also like the books, but I'd also really like to see how it's been adapted.
The good thing about some of these is that they twist it slightly at the end. You know, they know that everybody's read the book, so sometimes they change it slightly. Recent adaptation, they've not. They've changed it in that you don't find out why the person's done it in the same way as the book, but you know they've changed
the
it
same
slightly.
motivations.
Yes, and there's a lot kind of more flashbacks, whereas in the book, you know, they just kind of talk, if you see what I mean.
Oh, I definitely want to read this one.
It's very good. So, it's my first for Golden Age crime.
Yes.
But I recently came across Martin Edwards. And the first
gorgeous covers. Also golden script.
Yes.
So, yes, double gold there.
Exactly. We're sneaky like that. So they're set in 1930 in London, and the first one I read and I absolutely loved it. I'm now just about to start the third one because it's really good. And basically it's similar in that there's a couple of stories happening and you're not quite sure, and at one point I went, I absolutely know what's happened here. I know that this character is really this person and they've done this, and that, you know, I'm all smug and chuff, and then you come at the end and it's like, all right, no, that's not what happened. But in the second book, Mortmain Hall, at the end of the book, the author does give a slight nod to Golden Age crime, and apparently clue finders appeared from the late 1920s onwards in detective novels by British and American authors such as Agatha Christie, and there's a whole bunch of other authors there as well. And in this novel he wanted to pay homage to that, so he's revived the tradition, and there's 34 clues and he goes kind of through them and tells you. So there's things like family resemblances that you don't realise that somebody's related to somebody else, but there's plenty of like clues. So he says on page 23, I say that the person has a beaky nose and straw hair. Later on I say that the other character has beaky nose and straw hair. So I sat and went through all the clues as well, which I found quite interesting. Again, when you're reading a book you never really notice that, you just kind of went haha. But reading these, they were obviously put in to help people work things out.
That's really interesting.
But very sneakily.
But I love that because you know what, I've been listening to a lot of mystery audiobooks because I think I'd forgotten how much I enjoy mysteries, but it's not like a genre I would say I read a lot of. But now I have been, like, especially since we started the podcast, because you're a huge mystery fan. So I've been listening to them. And I think the sort of a different perspective of listening to audiobooks, especially with the mystery, is that your brain is making connections in a slightly different way. Because I'll be listening to the books when I'm doing the dishes, for example. So like a repetitive sort of task, or I'm going on a walk, or something like folding up laundry, all the boring things like the chores in life. And like So I'm listening to it and I'm paying attention, but like in the background, my brain is kind of making connections. So I pay attention to things in a different way than I would in a book, like while reading the book. Like, and I think it's helped in some ways, and like it's a different experience in others in terms of like figuring out who it is. So like, you know, the sort of things you were saying, family resemblance and things, I wouldn't pay so much attention to that kind of thing when I'm reading, like in a paperback or a hardback. But when I'm listening to it, it frees up my mental space, I think, a little bit more. So then I'm paying attention to those kinds of things. I'm like, oh, I wonder if this is... And that's helped in some of the Agatha Christie books as well, which is a really interesting experience. So yeah, I think I'd listen to some of them.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought about that. Like when I'm reading, I'm sitting... There's no TV on, you know, the house is nice and quiet, and I'm sitting reading, I'm concentrating on it. But like you say, if you're doing like a repetitive task and you're not having to sit with the book, and you can just, I can imagine, you pick up on different things.
It's really interesting, and I only started noticing in the last few months because I've been sort of having a mystery book going every couple of weeks or so, like some Agatha Christie, Miss Marple, I'm like working my way back up the catalogue, and like a few others that I'm listening to, and it's cool, that sort of twist that a different format gives in. Like, I love mysteries, I love plot twists, and it's nice to sometimes be on the side of like, oh, you're sort of figuring things out, but maybe not, like maybe in the end it's all like, oh, what?
Agatha Christie is the queen of, you know, that kind of a thing. My favourite in Miss Marple is At Bertram's Hotel. I don't know if you've read that one yet.
Is that one of the later ones?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so I think I've got midway through. No, so I haven't yet, I don't think.
Because after I finished And Then There Were None, that's my lunchtime book. Is that I'm reading that. I mean, it's very clever.
You've totally sold me on this one, but this sounds really fascinating. So I don't know though, I'm now torn whether I should read it, whether I should listen to it, whether I should watch the adaptation.
As I say, the adaptation's really good. It's got Charles Dance, you know, some quite good actors that are on the cover. I'm just
See, usually I hate covers that, you know, it's a pet peeve that is an adaptation of like if it's a TV show that's come out or a movie and the book covers, like, I don't know, I just don't like them. But in this case it's useful because now, like, if you would have said Charles Dance, I was like, who? And now I know who he is because I can see his photo.
However, when I read it, I put a bit of paper over that so that because when you read something, the characters are different than if you
in your head. You're right.
And I didn't want to have them in my head because it's been long enough since the TV adaptation for me to have forgotten what they look like. So Charles Dance in the book doesn't look like Charles Dance, if you see what I mean.
So you've watched the adaptation?
Yes, but a while ago.
Right.
And I read this before I watched the adaptation, and then I've read it afterwards. But yeah, I didn't want to see the characters because in my head they were different. So I put a bit of paper because I'm the same. I don't like to see the film version cover of a book. If that makes sense.
Like, I think it does help with some people because like maybe people who wouldn't have picked up the book but they really like the show or the movie and they, you know, like they see it on the book and they pick it up, but we're not those people. We like would pick up the book anyway.
Exactly.
So yeah, so I guess there's a place for them, just not on our shelves.
No. But as you know, we were saying, the covers of the Martin Edwards books are lovely. They're beautiful. Very kind of Art Deco-ish, just lovely.
I think this time's the picture that you're gonna click after this for B with B is going to be gorgeous because all these covers, except maybe the like this is a fine cover with the TV adaptation, I guess, but yeah, they're just gorgeous, and that's something that people can find on our social media pages.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so you can just have a look to see, just fall in love with the covers and then maybe pick them up at the library.
Except you might not be able to get that one out because I'm going to take that one out. Well, you totally sold it.
I'm so glad, especially like from a fiction to a non-fiction thing. Well, if you just dip in and out.
I'll report back next time and tell you how I got on.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. So I hope now B is happy with our choices. I think we've double goldened her.
Yes.
So it's like in a very direct and indirect way. So what about the next theme, Jenny? Do you have any, have you heard any rumours?
I have. She's come away from the colourful theme. If you remember last time it was a colourful life, golden years this time. So this time it's going to be It's a Mystery.
Mystery.
Yes.
Okay.
Which we kind of touched on there, so I think
That's
we're both going to be
true.
absolutely fine with that.
That's true. Yeah. Oh, but now we have to find ways to make the genre new.
Yes.
I guess. Which I think we have some ideas
Yes,
for.
absolutely.
But
I
yes,
think Bea will be impressed
I
next
think
time
she
as
will.
well.
Yes. But thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Bye.
Bye.